or the before the Vallejo Planning Commission before taking it to the council, hence the vagary about how soon we will be bringing it to the council. So we have invited through the Economic Development Department, did an outreach to our tobacco retailers about this meeting this evening in order to allow the retailers to reach out and attend this presentation to hear more about this proposed retail licensing ordinance. What we are going to do this evening is to go over the major provisions of the draft ordinance. After the presentation, staff will take questions of the attendees, both virtual and in person, and will provide an opportunity for comment from those interested in the ordinance. So what are the major provisions of the draft ordinance? So first, we're going to talk a little bit about who and what is regulated. So who? So anyone, business, individual, nonprofit, which I doubt would ever occur, but you never know, engaged in the retail sale of tobacco products within the city limits will need to have a tobacco retail license under this proposed ordinance. What are tobacco products? Because that's been vague, I would say, in our existing regulations and in other regulations across the state. For the purposes of this ordinance, tobacco products will include any product made or derived from tobacco or nicotine, regardless of the means of delivery. So that means your obvious cigars, cigarettes, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, but include other delivery methods like snuff, electronic delivery devices, vaping, etc. So the ordinance is not just addressed to what you typically think of or what some people typically think of as tobacco products, but anything really containing those same ingredients. There are some prohibitions in the ordinance that is being proposed. Tobacco ordinance products will not be permitted to be sold at pharmacies, cannabis retail stores, or non-fixed locations. That's mobile retail. We are also considering a provision. Our current provisions in our ordinance prohibit the sale of tobacco retail in any residentially zoned zoning district. And so we may pick that up as well, since it is a current regulation, and add it to this particular ordinance. The ordinance as proposed also contains separation requirements. New tobacco retailers will not be able to locate within a determined number of feet of youth-oriented facilities. Those include schools, libraries, playgrounds, youth centers, recreation facilities, parks, childcare facilities, and potentially more. The suggested distance at this point is 1,000 feet from any of those facilities. Our current zoning regulations already have a separation requirement, so this is not necessarily new, but tobacco retailers are being redefined to any type of sale of tobacco as opposed to just 20% or more of the product sold. So the expansion here, while we currently do regulate tobacco retailers, is to regulate them all, not just the big retailers that primarily sell tobacco. Separation is also required by the proposed ordinance from existing tobacco or cannabis retailers. Again, a suggestion of 1,000 feet. So this basically is an provision aimed at concentration of these businesses, so they are not all located very close together or in specific neighborhoods where they are highly concentrated and yet less concentrated in other neighborhoods. So the idea is to spread the retailers who sell tobacco products around and not have any neighborhoods that are specifically targeted for tobacco sales. There were also are proposed within the contemplated ordinance density limitations on the number of retailers based on city population. Currently, we are looking at one retailer per 2,500 persons within the city. Again, the idea is kind of a how many do we really need, and to not have them located basically on top of one another or so many within the city that they become a predominant use. However, this ordinance contemplates that existing retailers would be exempted from the proximity and density requirements, provided they are otherwise in compliance with the ordinance and pre-exist the adopted or the effective date of the ordinance. An existing retailer wouldn't be able to move and continue to be exempted. In other words, you wouldn't be able to move from location A to location B, and location A wasn't compliant with distance or separation or density requirements, but location B is equally not compliant. No, that would not be allowed. You would have to move to a compliant location. Other provisions of the ordinance limits sales to persons 21 years of age or over. All sales require an ID, regardless of whether or not the retailer believes that someone appears to be over that age. Self-service displays will be prohibited of all kind. You will have to have product behind a counter or in a secured area that requires participation of the retailer to reach the product. No delivery of tobacco-related products will be allowed. Flavored tobacco products will be prohibited, and the ordinance expands the concept of what is flavored tobacco beyond the commonly held belief today. And there will be pricing and packaging requirements that are addressed to not allowing packaging to be standard packaging to be broken up, not allowing individual sale of product, etc. Just for purposes of understanding what the license looks like, it is an annual license. There will be clear provisions for issuance or denial of the license. Licenses that are issued improperly, so based on fraud in the application or untrue statements or other other concerns with the application may be revoked if it is improperly issued or wouldn't have been issued but for the improper information. And compliance monitoring will be authorized by the ordinance so that we can effectively determine that everyone is in compliance. What do our enforcement options look like? Fines, a civil action for enforcement, criminal prosecution of someone for lack of compliance with the ordinance. Options exist for a forfeiture of product that is improperly being sold or held for sale, and also suspension or revocation of the license for violations. So those suspension and revocation provisions as currently drafted would be a 30-day suspension for the first violation within a 5-year period, a 90-day suspension for a second violation within a 5-year period, a 1-year suspension for a third violation, and at the fourth violation, the license will be revoked. So what are the next steps for this ordinance? We will complete the drafting of the ordinance and related ordinances, changes that are already in our municipal code that will need to be modified. There will be proposed fees for the permits. We are currently looking at the fees of surrounding jurisdictions. And I believe that, and I did bring some of that information with me this evening just to talk about it in case people are interested. These fees vary pretty widely from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. For instance, Oakland's fee is about $1,500 per year. 940 in Alameda County. In Solano County, I believe the retailers, let me see if I can find the Solano County fees. Sorry about that. Let's see. So Solano, the only Solano County jurisdiction that currently is charging a tobacco licensing fee and has a in-place tobacco licensing ordinance is the city of Benicia. Their initial fee is $500 and then $450 per year. But there are, and just to kind of currently or as of July of 2023, 225 jurisdictions in the state of California that have tobacco retailing licensing. So not a new concept. We're not, stepping way out of the box on this one. Retail licensing schemes have been around for quite a while. And the city of Vallejo is looking to step into that circumstance now. At this point, we are available for questions if anyone has any, either online or in person. Sure. It looks like there might be some people in person who have a question. I've heard at least one. Yeah, you'll be captured if you're on the microphone.
Sure. I just want to get clarification on the criminal prosecution as one of the enforcement mechanisms. Is that of the retailer itself or of, meaning the owner of the establishment, or a clerk who is found to have sold to a minor, for example?
So it would be, the answer to that question would depend on what the violation was. So if the violation were that the business is has not followed, say, the display rules, as a for instance, then it would be against the owner of the business. If it was an individual who conducted a sale in violation of the ordinance, it could be the individual who had conducted the sale. So I guess my answer is it depends. The answer is basically the person responsible for the violation.
Okay.
Sure. Any other in-person questions? Okay, Manny, did you want to see if anyone online had a question?
Anybody from the public on Zoom would like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand now.
Okay, great. All right. So, Manny, and was it your intent to post this on the city's website so that anyone who wanted information about the ordinance, basically before it comes before the city for consideration, could gain at least this information? Okay. And can you tell us where that will be posted? Okay. Probably wherever it's easiest to be found. Okay, perfect. So it will be posted on the city's website for anyone to get this additional information. You can do a search for tobacco retail licensing, and it will come up and lead you on the city's search engine, and it will lead you to this particular ordinance or presentation. We'll also put up whatever other draft information as the ordinance comes out, and our other presentations will also be available online. Okay, well, thank you to the members of the public who came, and stay tuned for more as the ordinance weaves its way through the process.